Hi guys, it's Tina here. I want to go ahead and do this quick video. I already did 4 other videos. It would be God Will Make a Way, and that's chapter 2. And I already did Then Comes Marriage, which is this one right here. I already uploaded that one. I did chapter 2, but it was 3 parts because it was a really long chapter. So hopefully you guys can go check those out. I'll go ahead and link them down below. So hopefully you guys can just access them quicker. Thanks so much for watching. And we're going to go ahead and start with chapter 2. Chapter 2 starts with awakening your mind. So I'm going to read something like a little paragraph first before we get started with chapter 2. And it's by James Allen. Okay, so he says, they are makers of themselves by virtue of the thoughts which they choose and encourage. That mind is the master weaver, both of the inner garment of character and the outer garment of circumstances, and that as they may have hitherto woven in ignorance and pain, they may now weave in enlightenment and happiness. Okay, now I'm going to start chapter 2. So here we go. Everything is energy. Science describes energy and how it works in physical terms, based on earthly elements, how particular arrangements of atoms cluster together, but it is on a higher level. In the fourth or spiritual dimension that we find the force that actually holds the atoms together. The energy is what I call the God force energy. Our entire universe is permitted by this God force energy. It is what we are made of and where we come from. The God force energy is the center of all that is. The mind, the spirit, and the physical body are all composed of the same God force energy. However, each is vibrating at a different frequency. When I am asked if the mind is a part of our brain, I say the brain is the organ of the mind, just like the eyes are the organ of vision. Our sight is as good as the health of our eyes, and the same way be said for the mind and brain. The brain is organic, personal, and individual. The brain is constantly evolving. It is up to each of us to develop and increase the power of our brains. The mind is already perfect, as Emerson described the mind. Mind is an ethereal sea, ethereal, which ebbs and flows, hold on guys, I'm having a little trouble reading. I'm sorry, my eyesight is a little crazy. It's my astigmatism. It's actually, let me just move the light a little bit. Maybe that's what it is. Let me focus on something else. Okay, which surges and washes hither and thither, carrying its whole virtue into every creek and inlet which it bathes. To this sea, every human house has a waterfront, but this force creating nature, visiting whom it will, withdrawing from which it will, is no fee or property of any man or angel. It is as a light, public, and entire to each, and on the same terms. The mind seems to be the window to nature itself. The phenomenon of the mind can create, imagine, and reason. When we harness the positive energy of the mind, its results are nothing less than incredible. Take, for example, writing or painting. Writers and artists begin with an idea of a certain story or picture, and then transform it onto paper or the canvas. How did it get there? The brain can develop what is wrong with me? I can't read. The brain can deliver only what is put into it, much like a computer. But the mind is a source that goes beyond our computer-like brain. It is linked with the God force energy that encompasses all things. When we think of how Mozart composed an opera or a piano concert, we think of whom tuned into some heavenly orchestra. As he listened to the music in his mind, he used his brain to write down the notes. The brain was the conduit through which he was able to compose, but it was his mind that created such musical splendor. By understanding that the brain is not the source of ideas and the mind is, we must also understand that each individual mind is connected to the universal mind and shares in its substance. So now it's going to be the universal mind. The next part is the universal mind. When I think of the concept of the universal mind, I find it easier to envision it as an enormous lake that is translucent, impressionable, and reflective. I think of the individual mind as a fish swimming in this lake. The fish is interdependent upon the environment it inhabits and is affected by its environment. Thoughts are like ripples upon the water. Each ripple originates within the lake and is part of the water, but each is distinct and individualistic as well. Each ripple affects each fish and thus the whole lake. The universal mind has no boundaries or limitations, and anyone can see it, can use it, can use it. Have you ever watched a program on television and thought to yourself, I had the idea a year ago? So often people appear to come up with the same design or idea independently of each other. Why? Because a creative person tapped into the universal mind and pulled into her individual mind that particular inspiration. Ideas are merely sensations imprinted deep inside us. Once they are realized, we can take action. In other words, our brainstorms are vibrations from the universal mind. When I first came to Los Angeles, my goal was to become a television and film writer. I remember waking up one morning with an incredible idea for a screenplay. It was one that I thought was unique and would have great appeal. I immediately went to my computer and began typing away. My story involved a children's book with characters that came to life and actually interacted with the author. I thought it was so unusual that I dared not tell anyone about it, even my friends. I didn't want someone stealing my idea. I completed the script in 3 months and sent it around the various studios and received the same reaction from each one. I was told that there were 3 other scripts with exactly the same storyline. I was crushed. My unique idea, which I took pains to hide, had taken hold in the minds of 3 other complete strangers. This unison, unison, I'm not sure how to say it. No, unison. This unison of ideas. I'm sorry, guys. My eyes are just like, since I read the other 3 parts, it's just like, it's hard. My stigmatism just kind of plays games with me, and I gotta kind of focus on something else and then focus back, and then I'll be fine. If you have stigmatism, I'm sure you can relate. This unison of ideas among us is as genuine as the air we breathe and the sunshine we feel. On a global level, we all share in a feeling or a sense of one another. How did we all feel when Princess Diana was killed? There seemed to be a blanket of sadness covering the entire world. Even though most of us never knew her personally, on a soul level, we could all share the pain and empathize with the loss because we are all connected. Just as the same sun shines on every individual, we all share a oneness and a commonality. We all share senses. We feel, see, hear, touch, laugh, and cry. We all share the God force energy. Wouldn't the world be a better place if we were to think of each other as spiritual beings and shared our earthly paths with kindness and encouragement? The next part is the thought we create. Thoughts are things. Thoughts are as real as the organs in your body. What sorts of thoughts fill your day? Are they friendly thoughts or hurtful thoughts? Thoughts are powerful, so it is important to pay attention to what you think about day in and day out. The life you are living is the result of your thinking. Science, I like that. That's something really important. The life you are living is the result of your thinking. Just remember that, because I think that that's something we all need to think about, because it's pretty important. It's actually really true. Science credits certain patterns of neurons in our brains with forming particular ways of thinking and rationalizing. Yes, this is true. There is an element of electrical activity taking place within particular areas of the brain that affect our performance. However, the truth um, is thought is not created in the brain whatsoever. We don't say something comes to the brain, comes to brain. Rather, we say something comes to mind. Thought is a function of the mind, and the end result is found in the brain. There are basically three sources of thought. The first kind will easily for some is more difficult to come by for others. It is thought through prayer or silent meditation. The vibration of these energy thoughts is quite high. The first step in attuning your awareness to this higher frequency of energy is to make it a habit to set aside time for prayer and meditation every day. Although it may not always seem that anything is going on, in time you will find that the rewards of your spiritual practice are great. I believe becoming aware on this level creates a sense of humility, calmness, self-love, and joy. During my years of training to be a medium, it was imperative for me to meditate daily. By aligning myself with this God force consciousness, my connection to the spiritual dimensions heightened and increased in vibration. However, I had to sit patiently day after day in the silence to raise the level of my awareness of the God force energy within me. Then, when I reached for my clients, I worked from a very high vibration of love. Mediumship itself is an incredible and miraculous ability, but the work takes on a whole new purpose when the medium is developing on a spiritual level as well. The next part is like attracts like. This is a concept I use often and to which I will refer several times to this book. When a person is centered and thinks thoughts of love, peace, and abundance, he will get back the experiences of those thoughts. Stop for a moment and imagine everyone in the world thinking good thoughts. It is sort of mind-boggling, isn't it? As a medium on a spiritual path, it is important that I spend time in meditation and focus my thoughts on the positive aspects of life. I believe that is why the messages that come through me are more spiritual in nature and more accurate, and the lessons behind the communications are more beneficial to all concerned. The second category of thought comes from our environment. We have to be aware of the great influence our environment has on our daily lives. How many times have you walked into a room and felt something not right? Or how many times have you felt depressed or ill for no apparent reason? The reason is that you are picking up someone else's thought energy. I always have had to be careful when visiting people in hospitals because I am so sensitive to the sentiments, and feelings of others. Often, when I walk down the corridors of a hospital, the cries of patients penetrate my mind. I want to get out of here, or I don't want to die, or I'm in pain. Won't somebody help me, please? The sense of sickness and suffering permeates the atmosphere, and sometimes I become overwhelmed by it. Like a radio station, we are continually sending out and receiving signals. We not only receive these signals from one to the other, but also on a much larger scale. We are surrounded and influenced by the signals of mass consciousness. Although some of these thoughts may be quite good and humane, most are messages of greed, anger, selfishness, and dishonesty. These thoughts are attracted by and attached to the lower parts of our nature. With this constant bombardment of lower consciousness, influences, ideas of a higher spiritual nature have little mass appeal. This does not necessarily mean that all thoughts are received from others are negative in nature. Healing, prayer, and love are higher thoughts, vibrations, and are also reflected in your surrounding atmosphere. When you send out love, a person receives that love. That love may not be detected on a conscious level, but it is nevertheless very alive and effective. The final group consists of our most common everyday thoughts. Psychiatrists and psychologists from Sigmund Freud on have broken down consciousness into three separate but interdependent levels of thought: the conscious, the subconscious, and the unconscious. The conscious mind is the one we use to count our change at the market and to read this book. So the conscious mind is the one we use to count or change at the our change at the market and to read this book. So that's our conscious mind. The subconscious mind controls all the involuntary processes of the body, the regulation of sleep, which is something I have a problem with, respiration, digestion, circulation. So definitely I have a problem with my subconscious. It never sleeps and therefore never stops. The unconscious mind is unseen and vast. It is the warehouse of all past experiences, including everything we have, every thought, felt, learned, or witnessed from the past to the present. Okay, that one's pretty good because I remember everything, and yeah, I think I'm pretty good there. However, it is the subconscious mind that runs our lives. Great, that's the one I have a problem with, and that's the one that runs our life, apparently, most of the time. The subconscious is like a hardworking factory machine that is responsible for the regeneration of cells that heal the body. The part of the mind does not reason or rationalize. That job belongs to the conscious mind, but instead is tirelessly at work registering thoughts and impressions without judgment. As children, our subconscious minds register the words and ideas of the adults around us, and these memories are very much alive within us. Habits, among other things, arise from subconscious thoughts. In order to be in control of your life, you need to take charge of the way you think, both consciously and subconsciously. There is great wisdom in the subconscious mind. If you begin to work with it, it can be a tremendous benefit to you and serve as an endless reservoir of knowledge. Through our minds, myriad great myriad great discoveries and inventions can be achieved that can bring great benefit to the human race. When utilized positively, the human mind is a source of great works of art, philosophy, and science that truly improve the quality of life on the planet. But the mind that creates such amazing wonders also has the capacity to destroy and annihilate. It can impose terrible forms of cruelty and hatred. We owe it to ourselves to lift our thoughts to the highest frequency so that we can evolve to a higher consciousness and bring the splendors and miracles of life to future generations. Almost done, guys. Almost done. 3 paragraphs left. James Allen, a great teacher who wrote a groundbreaking book called As a Man Thinketh, which I recommend to help you begin to change your thinking patterns, as Allen says. So the name of the book is As a Man Thinketh. Man is made or unmade by himself. In the armory of thought, he forges the weapons by which he destroys himself. He also fashions the tools with which he builds for himself heavenly mansions of joy and strength and peace. By the right choice and true application of thought, man ascends to the divine perfection. By the abuse and wrong application of thought, he descends below the level of the beast. Between these two extremes are all the grades of character, and man is their maker and master. So, okay, so that ends chapter 3. I mean, chapter 2, sorry. And chapter 3 will be getting to know you. Okay, guys, so I really like to learn about how the mind works. I've always been very intrigued about the mind and learning how to how it works, and I'm glad I was able to figure out a little bit of the conscious, subconscious, unconscious, because I think that will help me understand what process is up here. Anyway, yeah, I completely agree with awakening your mind on chapter 2. I think that we need to be more aware of our thoughts, and that they play a big role in how our life will play out. I think that this is a great chapter. I think that you guys should probably, listen to it a couple of times so that you can understand that that being aware of what you are thinking is how your day will play out, or how your week will play out, or how your life will play out. I know my dad would always tell me this. He was always really into reading books and stuff. And he would always tell me, you need to read this book, or you need to read this book. And I'm like, oh, Dad, come on. Like, you gave me a million books, right? But his books were a little bit different. He read a little bit of everything. I like reading a lot of self-help books, and other things too, probably like nutrition and other stuff. But anyway, self-help books has always been one of my passions to read, and relationship ones, and how to study the mind, and just a bunch of stuff like that. Anyway, he would always tell me, Mija, like, you need to understand, and I always remember this, your mind is a very powerful thing. Your mind, because I know, like, when I would get upset with my husband, or I would get upset about something, he's like, your mind is very powerful. If you allow it, it'll think of a million reasons why a certain something is wrong, or something's bad, but if you control your mind, and you can think of a million things why something is good. So your mind is very powerful. So if you learn to control your mind, or you apply good things to it, like let's say reading positive books, or surrounding yourself with positive people, or praying often, or spending time with positive people, it will completely change your life. We need to be more creatures of habit when it comes to positive things. Learn to apply more positive things in our life, and we will receive more positive things in return. So I noticed that people who are positive and tend to draw more people closer to them, because they're trying to feed off of your positivity. But sometimes you need to be careful, because those people who are channeling into your positiveness can also be draining you if they are not positive, if they are always, how can I say it? If they're trying to draw the energy from you, and they're not actually working on themselves, if you allow them to bring their negativity, and you're trying to dish out positivity to them, you can also end up with a big mess, because you feel drained at the end of your time spent with them. So for me, I like to surround, and I'm very careful of who I associate myself with now, because I remember allowing people to drain that energy from me, and allowing them to make me feel like I'm not good at something, or why don't I do this, or why don't I do that, or I'm not so good at this, or why do you do that, and I think I was doing that up until I started actually reading these books, because I remember I would upload a video, and then I would bring it down, because I was like, oh, what are they going to think about it? Like, what if one of my family members saw it or whatever? It's like, you know what? You need to just stop thinking about what other people think and think about how you feel when you do this. Ever since I started this book club and ever since I started reading positive things, my energy has been more positive. And I feel that my family has been able to see that. I know my husband has been able to see that. And so it brings more happiness. I look forward to coming. I go drop off all my kids. Well, both of my kids, not all my kids. I only have 2 kids. And I drop off my husband at work and I come home and it's like, I really want to just start reading. You know, it brings so much positivity into me. I start noticing that I started praying more. Like my prayers are much longer. I'm a lot more grateful instead of just trying to rush through a prayer. And it's not how it should be, because I don't think that the Lord is that way with us. You know, so um and I started putting a lot more positivity into my channel. When it comes to my YouTube, I want to put more positive things, and I also put more positive things on my Facebook. Like, I'm just dishing out more positivity, but I'm not actually, you know, allowing anybody to invade my space. This is my positivity. This is what I'm dishing out into the world, and that's what I expect the world to dish out back to me. And if it doesn't want to, for whatever reason, and people do not care for my positivity, then I at least know that my surrounding part here, which is my home is very sacred, and only certain people come into my home, because I find that this home right here is very sacred to me. And that's something that I do not allow people to invade. My space is my space, and this is where I feel safe. This is where I feel positivity. This is where nothing can hurt me. And that's how I think people should be. You should carry yourself with more positivity, feel more, confidence, feel more, walk with your head up high, feel more blessed to be on this planet one more day, breathing, alive, having your children, your family, thinking of all the positivity thinking of all the blessings that you're blessed with each day, not thinking of all the negative things. What is wrong today? Don't wake up with that mentality, because that's what you're going to get. Think positive. Think today's going to be a great day, and this week is going to be good, and we're going to make it good, and we're going to push through it. And as long as you have God by your side, and you have your family, and you have your health, everything else will fall into place. So I want to go ahead and leave you with that, guys. Remember that your mind is a very positive, not very positive, a very powerful thing, and you need to maintain it positive. You need to think positive things. So I'm going to go ahead and leave you with that. Thanks so much for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I really enjoy making them, so hopefully you guys do like them. And yeah, I'm going to go ahead and link down below other videos that I've done of some other books that I've been reading. Yeah, so thanks so much for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Bye, guys.